Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into Habit 1 from Stephen Covey's masterpiece, Be Proactive. At its heart, this is all about grabbing the steering wheel of your own life and realizing just how much power you actually have. So let's kick things off with a really fundamental question. Think about it for a second. Are you the one driving, actively choosing where you're going? Or are you kind of just in the passenger seat, letting circumstances take you for a ride? Your answer to that question really gets to the core of what it means to be proactive. To really understand what it means to be proactive, we first have to look at the opposite. We need to examine those mental scripts we all have that make us feel like passengers, the ones that whisper in our ear that we're not really in charge.
A lot of how we see ourselves actually comes from what Covey calls the social mirror. It's this reflection we get from other people's opinions and perceptions. When people tell you things like, "Oh, you're always late," or "you're just not a numbers person," those labels can start to stick, and we begin to believe they're the absolute truth about who we are. And that social mirror often leads us straight into the blame game. It's usually based on three main ideas. First, you've got genetic determinism. That's the "it's in my DNA" excuse. Then there's psychic determinism, which says, "Hey, my parents and my upbringing made me this way." And finally, environmental determinism, which is all about blaming your boss, your partner, your current situation. See the pattern? Every single one of them passes the buck.
Okay, but here's where everything changes. There's this incredibly profound idea, discovered under the most unimaginable conditions, that just completely shatters all of those blame game maps. This comes from the story of Viktor Frankl. He was a psychiatrist, and he was a prisoner in the Nazi death camps. He went through things that are almost impossible to even comprehend. Now, he was actually trained as a determinist. He was taught to believe our past scripts our future. But what he experienced there taught him a completely different and much more powerful truth. Frankl realized that while his captors could control his physical environment, they could hurt his body, they could do terrible things, they could not control his response. They couldn't touch his inner self. And in that tiny little gap between what happens to us, the stimulus, and how we react, our response, that's where our greatest power lies. It's our freedom to choose. And this freedom, this is what makes us uniquely human. It's powered by what Covey calls our four human endowments. Think of them like our mental superpowers. We have self-awareness, the ability to look at our own thoughts. We have imagination, so we can envision new possibilities. We have a conscience, that internal compass of right and wrong. And we have independent will, the power to act based on our self-awareness, free from all other influences. So that incredible insight from Frankl, that is the absolute bedrock of Habit 1. It's all about making the conscious decision to use that freedom, to be proactive instead of letting the world around us just make us reactive. Now, proactivity is way more than just, being a go-getter. It means we are fundamentally responsible for our own lives. And the word itself is so perfect if you break it down. Responsibility. It's the ability to choose your response. Our behavior isn't just a result of our conditions, it's a product of our own decisions. So this creates two totally different mindsets. The reactive person feels like they're a product of their circumstances. If the weather is nice, they feel good. If someone is rude to them, they get angry. But the proactive person, they are a product of their decisions, driven by their core values, those carefully thought out principles that guide them no matter what's happening on the outside. And a fantastic way to tell which script you're running is just to listen your own language. Reactive language gives power away. Things like, "he makes me so mad," or "I have to do this," or "I can't." But proactive language takes that power back. "I control my feelings. I will choose how to respond. Let's find a way." It's a subtle but massive difference. This leads to a beautiful idea. Proactive people carry their own weather. It doesn't matter if it's pouring rain or shining bright outside. It doesn't matter if people are praising them or attacking them. Their internal climate is steady because it's based on their values, not on external conditions. All right, so this all sounds fantastic, right? But how do we actually apply it? How do we do this in our day-to-day lives? Well, the key is to focus our time and energy where it can actually make a difference. So I want you to picture two circles, one inside the other. That big outer circle is your circle of concern. It's filled with all the things you care about, your health, the economy, what other people think of you, all of it. But inside that is a smaller circle. That's your circle of influence. This one contains everything you can actually do something about, your habits, your choices, your attitude, your work ethic.
Now, reactive people, they spend all their time and energy focused on that big circle of concern. They complain about things they have no control over, they blame other people, they feel like victims. And here's the kicker. All that negative energy actually causes their inner circle of influence to get smaller and smaller.
But proactive people do the exact opposite. They pour their energy into their circle of influence. They work on the things they can change, themselves. And that positive, constructive energy works like magic. It causes their circle of influence to expand, giving them more and more ability to affect change in the world around them. And this is maybe the single most important takeaway from this whole habit. The very moment we think the problem is out there, that thought itself is the problem. Why? Because we've just handed over control. The proactive approach is always to work from the inside out, starting with the one thing we truly command, ourselves. Now, to help you really feel the power of this idea, Covey gives us a really direct way to test it out in our own lives. It's a simple experiment. He calls it the 30-day test. For just 1 month, you commit to living proactively, and you just observe. See what happens. The rules are incredibly simple, but so powerful. For 30 days, first, you work only inside your circle of influence. Second, you make small promises to yourself, and you keep them. Build that integrity. Third, be a model for change, not a critic of others. And finally, when you mess up, and you will, just admit it right away, fix it, and learn the lesson. That's it.
And as you're doing this, it's so important to remember this quote. It reminds us that while we are totally free to choose our actions, that's one end of the stick, we are not free to choose the consequences of those actions. That's the other end of the stick. Being proactive means taking full responsibility for both.
And really, that's what this all boils down to. Deeply understanding and accepting that we are responsible is the foundation for every other habit. It's the key to our effectiveness, our happiness, and believe it or not, most of our circumstances. It's a huge shift in thinking, but it's where all meaningful change begins. So let's move this from just an idea to an action. I'll leave you with this question. What is one thing, just one thing, that's inside your circle of influence that you will take action on today? That small step, that's where the whole journey starts.